My name is David Gregory, and I'm Tom Fraschillo's friend. Actually, there's much more I would like to say, and I'm going to say in just a moment. But I want first to say that I'm Tom's friend and have been for many years. Many years. We were in high school band clinics together, high school all-state band together, undergraduate school together in southern Mississippi. We've conducted together, judged together, taught together, done clinics together, we've traveled together, and now he and Cecilia live in the same community that Cheryl and I do. Let me give you a brief overview of the teacher and conductor and scholar, the person we know as Tom Fraschillo. An overview that is not seen in his immensely impressive resume that you have in your program. Thomas Vincent Fraschillo was born in Clarksville, Mississippi, the son of Italian immigrants. Or as often said in some parts of Mississippi, he was originally born in Clarksville. He attended Catholic schools during the early years of his formal education and received his first musical training from Sister Norbert Mary at St. Elizabeth's Catholic School. At the end of his 8th grade year, as he was preparing to move to Clarksville High School the following fall, he attended a band concert by the Clarksville High School Band as part of what today we would refer to as the recruiting process. Tom was so impressed and so taken with the performance that he approached the band director, Kent Sills, after the event and told him he wanted to join the band. When Kent asked Tom what instrument he played, Tom proudly announced that he played the piano. Well, Kent was perceptive enough and was wise enough to recognize the potential of this awkward 8th grader that stood before him, so he welcomed Tom to the Clarksville High School Band as a percussionist. Perhaps this was the next time Tom was born, as the world of bands and band music was open to him. At the end of his high school years, when the time came to make a decision about college, Tom was at first uncertain about leaving his hometown and the area where he had spent his early years. Maybe he should stay in Clarksville and go to school somewhere around there, he thought. Well, as the story goes, one day Tom was having coffee in one of the local pastry shops. The store was sponsoring a contest, something akin to a modern-day scratch-off contest, wherein customers peeled a label off their coffee cup and discovered what prize they had won. Well, the day that Tom was there, one of the locals peeled back his label and excitedly exclaimed, "I've won a recreational vehicle. I've won an RV." Well, the manager came to the table and explained that it was not possible to win an RV, as the top prize for the contest was a dozen donuts and coffee. Well, the customer adamantly restated his claim that he had won an RV. The manager took the cup, looked at it, and said, "Sir, it says win a bagel." Tom has made this decision that day to go away. His high school band director recommended that he enroll at the University of Southern Mississippi because the new director of bands there, William J. Moody, seemed to know what he was doing, and he was really making a difference in that program. Kent told Tom that it would be the best place for him, so he went there. Perhaps this was the next time Tom was born. As he entered the world of Bill Moody, the young, charismatic, intellectual liberal from Duluth, Minnesota, who had come to the Deep South in the early 1960s. Tom's year under the tutelage and leadership of Bill would prove to be the seminal time in his life thus far and would serve as an unshakable foundation for the philosophy of his work throughout the next 4+ decades. Following his graduation from the University of Southern Mississippi, Tom taught middle school and high school band in his native state for 2 years, worked 2 years as a high school band director in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and then returned to Mississippi to begin his enormously successful career as director of bands at Meridian High School. In 1975, he hired his assistant director, Cecilia Carter, a trombone player who had just completed her master's degree at USM. Well, the rest of the story for this duo, as we would say, is history. For this was the beginning of a wonderful partnership that would enhance and enrich the rest of Tom's personal and professional career. The Meridian High School Band, under the direction of Tom and Cecilia, excelled in all areas of concert and marching work, and after several years of exceptional musical achievements, received the highest of honors a high school band can achieve, an invitation to perform at the Midwest International Band and Orchestra Clinic. During those years of Tom and Cecilia's work together, Tom once said to me in confidence, "David, I think I'm going to have to marry the woman. I've fallen in love with her." Well, I said that was certainly an appropriate action for such situations involving two single adults. Well, based on what I've observed over the last 30 years plus, I really give excellent marriage advice. A few years after Midwest and his marriage to Cecilia, Tom returned to Moody's World for his doctoral work and spent 2 years at the University of South Carolina working on his DMA bill. During those years, the special relationship of teacher to student eventually became one of mutual respect and that of friend to friend, and it continues as such today. Upon completion of his DMA, Tom returned to Mississippi, this time as Director of Bands at the University of Southern Mississippi, the place to which he had gone upon the recommendation of his high school band director, the place where his world was changed through his contact with Dr. William Moody, and the place that was to be his professional home for the next 28 years. Perhaps this was the next time Tom was born, for it was not long after his return to Mississippi that he and Cecilia added Parents of Thomas as their most important title. It was only a short time after his arrival at USM as the director of bands that the work of Thomas Fraschillo guided his alma mater to a position of musical excellence and leadership in his state and beyond. His musical and intellectual skills, his work ethic, and his dedication to his profession, and his commitment to his students moved his beloved university band program to national prominence and to international recognition. High school band directors throughout the Southeast were recommending that their students attend USM for the music study because this Fraschillo fellow seemed to know what he was doing, and he was really making a difference in the program. I think that's wonderful symmetry, a generation apart, with two close friends who deeply admire and respect the work of the other. During his years at USM, Tom continued his musical and academic pursuits by studying and becoming fluent in the language of his ancestors. He's lectured, conducted, written, translated books, taught, and traveled throughout Italy during the past two decades. And his reputation in that country is equal to the one he has earned in ours. Maestro Fraschillo is a bit of a rock star in Italy. And his love for the people, their culture, and their music is always evident as he works with ensembles throughout the country. Tom retired from the University of Southern Mississippi this past May. And 1 week before Thomas's graduation from Georgia Tech, he and Cecilia moved to the foothills of the North Georgia mountains, where he has quickly become part of his new community of Big Canoe and his new work environment of Reinhardt University. He teaches orchestration and arranging, conducting, and Italian at Reinhardt, and he assists with the conducting responsibility of the Reinhardt Symphonic Winds. It seems as if Tom has found his next career and his new calling. Could this be yet another time when Tom will be born? Time will tell. There are many ways I can conclude my remarks about my good friend Tom. We've known one another most of our lives, and I've enjoyed being part of his spectacular career. It's a career that others might only dare to imagine. But probably the thing that sums up and is a summary statement of the person, the teacher, the conductor, the mentor, that is this musical giant we name as Thomas Fraschillo, is demonstrated in a single act that was completely spontaneous and without expectation of return. I mentioned earlier that Tom's Meridian High School Band performed at the 1980 Midwest Clinic, but what I did not describe was an incident that took place during the program. One of the selections in that incredibly fine concert called for a lengthy and exposed English horn solo. All had gone well in rehearsals, but in that performance before one of the band world's most critical audiences, a pad fell from the key of the student's horn, and she could not play the passage. Try as she would, no sound came from the horn during her solo measures. The band continued to play, and the selection finished to enthusiastic and appreciative applause. Tom turned to face the audience and received his well-deserved and duly earned reward from his profession. But after a quick bow, Tom immediately left the podium and went to the girl who had been unable to play her solo. She was heartbroken and in tears. And Tom left his podium amid the applause and went to his student. At the time when he had reached the pinnacle of performance opportunities in our profession, and at the time when he deservedly should be receiving the praise of his peers, his concern and his feelings were for his student. As he leaned over his student, reassuring and comforting her, the audience sensed what was taking place. And the applause that had been enthusiastic became tumultuous. Every person in the audience realized the specialness and the magic of that moment. And they were once again reminded that we as their teachers are seen and remembered through the eyes and in the hearts of our students. Tom Fraschillo intuitively knows and has known throughout his unmatched career that we ultimately are measured for success by the extent to which we serve and care for our students. It is my very distinct pleasure to present one of my musical and intellectual heroes, a man who has given us a career of exemplified by integrity and musical excellence, a person who has never lost sight of the things that are true and good in his life, and the person I am honored to name as one of my closest and dearest friends. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Thomas Fraschillo and his wife, Cecilia.
It's an honor to be with these people today, all of whom I've known and admired, as Paula said, for years and years and years. And certainly to have my good friend David speak for me is truly meaningful to both Cecilia and me. Probably, as Paula said, one of the people that we have to thank for being a great impetus in our career is Bill Moody. And unfortunately, Bill couldn't be here today. He was just almost in tears yesterday when he called David and said he couldn't come. So we owe him a great debt for giving us life in this profession. And I also, one of the things that David touched on was the importance of teachers in our lives. When I was growing up, I was truly the second wave of indentured servants in the Mississippi Delta. And my grandparents had come to this country and were sharecroppers. And when I went to school, I was literally invisible. And so Kent Sills had not said, well, we don't take piano players in vain. What would I have done? I don't know. I might have been working at the Kroger store. True. So we can never underestimate what we do in people's lives. And truly, I would say, as Ray said, that Cecilia has been probably the most important thing that's ever happened to me and given me guidance in every way. Life is once I was had Jack Crew on my campus do a clinic, and Jack looked out at the audience and he said, I've taught for 38 years at that time. He said, and I've enjoyed every day of it. He came backstage and I said, Jack, you are a liar. probably enjoyed most things, not everything. So all marriages have their ups and downs, but ours have certainly had more ups than downs. And certainly one of the great things that's ever happened to us is my son Thomas. And so I thank him for being here today. He got up at 6 o'clock or 5 yesterday and went to work from 6 to 3 in his little computer in the engineering department at Phoenix Stamping Company in Atlanta, so he could drive here and be with us today. And when Thomas decided to go to Georgia Tech, I was talking to Johnny Long about it. And Johnny said, well, Tom, you got to do whatever you have to do to get him over there and to get him in there. You know how, Johnny, you listen to Johnny. He said, Tom, this is important. He said, have you ever known a poor Georgia Tech grad? And I said, no, Johnny. And in that light, I want to thank certainly my dear friend Johnny Long, who has been my supporter for years and years, for all he has done for us in this profession. This beautiful hall, or without him, it would certainly not exist. So thank you so much, David, again. It's my pleasure.